Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to welcome you at this webinar. Let me introduce myself. I am Norina D'Arrigo. I work as International Relations Officer at Doctoral College, and I will replace my colleague, Marie Boone, who's unfortunately is not able to be here. And I would like to introduce you Federica TRUDU, my colleague in charge of international research project at UGA, and Jordan Loker, a postdoctoral fellowship at UGA in Marie Curie project. So just 2 words about the goals of this webinar. The purpose of this webinar is to present to you topics of the Marie Curie project and to offer you to benefit the experience of Jordan as a fellowship. So please, just another things. We think that the presentation will last 40 minutes, 50 minutes. Will be followed by the experience of the Jordan, and we will have a question and answer session at the end. So feel free to ask all your questions about the Marie Curie project. Please, Federica, I will give you the floor.
Thank you. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Is the right one?
ICMSCA postdoctoral fellowship.
Okay, perfect.
It's okay to me.
So good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure for me to be here to present you the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action called the Postdoctoral Fellowship. Before I start, I wanted to present you some numbers to keep you motivated during the presentation. So you probably know the Marie Skłodowska-Curie is the only person that has been awarded in 2 different Nobel Prize in 2 different sciences, and is the first one to be awarded twice. But the link between Nobel Prizes and Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action doesn't stop there, as there are 15 Nobel Prizes that are Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellows, and 8 of them are a supervisor of postdoctoral fellowships. So in my opinion, this project could be the first step of a very successful career, or at least a very good opportunity for you to work in with an high-profile researcher. Before going on, I will tell you something about me. So I got my PhD in chemistry in 2015, and I started working as a research assistant at the Università degli Studi di Siena in Italy in 2017. And I'm holding this position as a research project officer at UGA since 2019. And I'm currently the Marie Skłodowska-Curie point of contact. During my experience, I've followed more than 50 postdoctoral fellowship projects. So today I will present you a little bit the main features of the PF call. We'll talk about the main parts of the proposal, present you why this call is very advantageous for you, and we will finish with some practical information about the proposal, the evaluation, and the useful resources that you can use to prepare your submission. So Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action are part of the Horizon Europe program. This is the program of the European Commission, the funds research and innovation in Europe, and they are part of the excellent science pillar 1. the postdoctoral fellowship are only one type of Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action. And if we could try to summarize them in one sentence, it would be: a promising researcher moves to an host institution in another country to carry on a research project of excellence. So there are three main elements in a PF project. One is the researcher, the other is the supervisor, and then there is the host institution where the work is carried out. Before going deeper in the presentation, I need you to explain to you a little bit the countries as they are thought in Horizon Europe. So the Commission divides the world in three categories. One is the member states that are currently 27. Then there are the associated countries that are associated to the Horizon Europe project program. You see some are in orange because the agreement is not signed yet. And the rest of the world is considered third countries. So this is important after to understand the mechanism of the fellowship. So the first element is the researcher, so you. To be eligible, you must hold a PhD. And you should not have more than 8 years of research experience after the PhD. Some extensions are possible on depending on your personal situation. There are two main types of postdoctoral fellowship. One is called European Fellowship. This is open to everybody. You can have any nationality, and is for fellow that comes or are moving within Europe. So in this case, you choose an institution that is located in a member state or associated country. It can last between 12 or to 24 months. It's up to you. The most important thing to respect is the mobility rule. The fellow must not have resided in the host country for more than 12 months in the last 3 years at the call deadline. This means, for example, if you have done your PhD in France, you don't comply with this rule in France. So you have to choose an host institution that is located in another country. The second type of fellowship is the global fellowship. In this case, you must be national or long-time resident of a member state or associated country. And this fellowship is built around a period of mobility in a third country. The duration of this period is between 12 to 24 months. And then there is a second mandatory phase in the host institution in a member state or associated country. The idea here is to go in a third country to learn something new that is not very known in Europe, and bring back this knowledge to your host institution in Europe. So the mobility rule is quite different because the fellow must not have resided in the third country for more than 12 months in the last 3 years. So even all of you that have done your PhD in France, you are eligible for a global fellowship with UGA. You are going for an outgoing phase in a third country, and then you can do the return phase of 12 months in Grenoble. The second element is the supervisor, so the person that will supervise all your research activities and your career development. What the European Commission expects from a supervisor is someone that has a good track record. It should be someone that is recognized as an expert in his field. But you also need to have some proven mentoring abilities, some experience on supervising PhD students or postdocs. And ideally should be someone that has a lot of collaboration or participate in association or international projects that can put his network to work for you. So it could open up some networking opportunities for you. This is very important when you choose your supervisor, because you have the freedom to do so. Regarding the host institution, the third element, it should be based in a member state or associated countries. Is the institution that receives the funding and recruits the fellow, but it also may belong to the non-academic sector. So it's a good opportunity to write a proposal with a company, an association, an NGO, or a museum, for example, depending on your field of research. The project is the other important part of the call. It's a bottom-up call, so it's open to all subjects and discipline. It's you that you decide what you want to do during your fellowship, but keep in mind that the objective for the European Commission is to improve your employability and your career opportunities, also in the non-academic sector, and there is a strong focus on interdisciplinarity. So the research project is the PF project is a balance between the research innovation activities and the career development part. In our idea, at the center of the project, there is an innovative research project. And it's important that the researcher and the supervisor have some complementary expertise, because it's planned during the fellowship that there is a transfer of knowledge between the fellow and the supervisor, and between the supervisor and the fellow. This is very important. And regarding the host institution, you could choose it. You must choose, of course, an host institution that has all the resources that are needed to carry out the project, but it could also be chosen because there is some specific equipment, or because they are leader in the field, or if because they have some unique asset that you need for your fellowship, as a database or a collection of documents. These are the basic parts of the fellowship, but you can go further and do what is called a secondment. This is a period of time that you're going to spend in another organization where you will be supervised by another person that is called the secondment supervisor. It's not mandatory. It's up to you to decide if you want to do it, but you need to plan it in the proposal. It becomes a contractual obligation. You can do one or more. It makes sense to add a secondment only if it brings added value to the project. But in my opinion, it could be an opportunity to integrate the non-academic sector, but also to help you build an international research network, because you can spend some time in another university abroad, for example, and strengthen the relationship with another research group. The maximal duration is up to 1/3 of the total project duration. Sorry. Another option that you can have is a placement. This is quite new under Horizon Europe. It's a period up to 6 months after the end of the fellowship, where you work in a non-academic organization. So this part of the is still paid by the fellowship, but you need to be in a non-academic organization. This could be an opportunity for you to add the intersectoral aspect to your fellowship, but also to get in contact with a company or an organization that could offer you a job at the end of the fellowship. In general, I will say that this is quite general for all fellowship application. The funder are looking for a person that has a good track record of publication, but also maybe some funding received or awards. You should be able to show scientific independence, and you should. They are interesting to see how the fellowship will develop you as a researcher. So what skills will help you grow, and what can bring you to your career. The second thing that they look at is the place that you decide to, where do you decide to do the fellowship. So the suitability of the research environment to you and to the research project, but also if some mobility is planned. And for the project, it's very important that it is distinct from previous work. Your previous work during the PhD, for example, but also the supervisor previous work. They are really looking for original research ideas. In terms of funding, the postdoctoral fellowship work with unit costs. So everything is linked to 1 month of your work. Every month that you work, you are going to have these unit costs. There is one part that is dedicated for the researcher. The first one is the living allowance, that is your salary. This is adjusted with a country correction coefficient according to the state where the country where you are going to perform the fellowship. Keep in mind that this is a gross employer cost. So there is taxation of employer and employee taxes that you must add to calculate the net salary. So you are never going to see 5,000 euros in all countries have taxation on this kind of work contracts. The second unit cost is the mobility allowance. This is like an indemnization of the European Commission because they oblige you to move in another country for this project. So it could be managed in different ways according to your host institution. Sometimes it's in your salary, sometimes it's provided as a reimbursement for traveling expenses. The third research unit cost is the family allowance. You are entitled to this amount if you are married or if you have sons. Also, this one is managed in different way according to your host institution country. For example, in France, it's usually given with the salary. Then there are some the institutional unit costs. The first one is research training and networking costs. This is for you to be spent during the fellowship for anything that you may need. So it could be consumable for your research work. It could be books that you need to buy. It could be a computer.
Language courses to learn the language of the country while you do your fellowship, for example.
It could be really anything, and it's particularly important if you are doing, for example, a fellowship in a non-academic sector. A company will not be able to provide you with a lot of training opportunities as a university could do. So you can spend this money to do courses like even in communication. You can do anything that you want with this. And then there is the last unit cost, that is management and direct cost. This is more for the hosting institution for the costs that are linked to managing your fellowship. I've tried here to mention the main advantages for the researcher of doing winning a PF project. In my opinion, is a huge career boost because you get an international experience. You can have the opportunity to open up opportunities in the academic and the non-academic sector, and you get the status of Marie Skłodowska-Curie Fellow. There is also an association that organize events and etc. So it's very good also for networking purposes. You have the opportunity to diversify your competencies because, as we said, you should try to find a supervisor that has different competencies from yours. You get a competitive salary that is normally higher, above the average postdoc salary, and you also have some funding to manage for your project activities. I will just say some words on the proposal, because this is not really the aim of the presentation, but just to give you a quick idea, there is the submission is managed in the European Commission portal that is called the Funding and Tenders. You can search it online. There is a part A that is made of administrative information. Then there is the part B1 that is a document that is the very core of your proposal. It is divided in 3 main sections of a maximum 10 pages. The sections are excellence, impact, implementation. This is very, the document that is evaluated, it is the most important one. Then you have a second document, this is called part B2, where there is your CV and a table with information on the host institution. You must be aware that you can only submit one proposal per call. So even if the host institution is different, as a researcher, you can only submit one a day. Only one will be evaluated. The evaluation is done on these 3 main criteria. You can get a score between 1 to 5. Each one has a different weight on the total evaluation. The excellence is half of the total evaluation, and the other ones are a little bit less. So you can get a total score of maximum 1,000. Keep in mind that only if you get more than 70%, you can resubmit the following year. All sections are very important to get a high score, and you will see that is very needed. The evaluation is done by thematic panels. You are asked to put your assign your proposal to one panel. And there are 3 independent experts that will evaluate the proposal. Keep in mind that some of them can be non-academic researchers. So you should write it in a way that is understandable also for
non-specialist public.
Yes.
Specialist people.
To give you some statistic of the last call, I put you here the cutoff score. For the European and the global fellowship, they are evaluated separately. The cutoff score is the minimum score that you need to reach to get funded. So it's very, very high. And you also have the success rate. You can see that in 2022, there were almost 7,000 evaluated projects. It is quite a drop between 10,000 that we had for other calls. And you will see that there is almost the same proportion of evaluated project in the European panel and in the global one by comparison to the funded projects. I wanted also to mention a little bit the European Research Area Fellowships, because it's a good opportunity if your host institution is in a widening country. I've put the list here. During the submission, you are asked if you want to participate also to this scheme. So you just get 2 birds with 1 stone, because if your host institution is in a widening country and you say yes, and your project is not ranked high enough to get funded in the postdoctoral fellowship call, you could get funded by the HERA fellowship without any other evaluation procedure or anything. The only downside of this that you are not formally considered as a Marie Skłodowska-Curie fellow, but the funding and the project is the same that you would have done with the PF call.
And sorry, Federica,
yes.
and the unit cost will be the same for an area project?
I believe so.
You believe so? It's new.
Yes.
It's very new. It's an opportunity.
Yes, I think it's quite new.
Okay.
It has been introduced with Horizon Europe. I'm not an expert because France is not eligible for is not a widening country. It's done to fill the gap between some of European countries that are less successful to get funding from. Yes.
Yes, very interesting.
A little bit of a calendar here. So the call will open next month, basically. The deadline is September 13, but in my opinion, you should really start early. Already to find a supervisor, and I would say that the best time to start writing is June. So you have all the time to write and ask other people to read what you wrote, etc., etc. A little bit of information of what happens after if you are successful. You will have the results by February or March 24. Then there is the signature of the grant agreement that could take a little bit of time. And depending on your host institution, the project could start between June and September 24, but you can also start later if you want.
Can I ask you to cut your microphones, please? Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problems. Just to end, my piece of advice or where to find help to preparing your proposal. The first thing to do if you choose, particularly if you choose an academic institution, is to reach out to the research office, because there are some parts of the proposal that are really tailored on the host institution, and you need to have someone there that can help you also for the administrative part. So this is my first suggestion. Then there are national contact points for the Horizon Europe program, and particularly for the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action, they can help you. Some of them, depending on the country, they can also read your proposal, have feedback. It depends on them. You really need to ask. And then there are a lot of official documents and presentation. I have put some of them here. So the first one is, of course, the guide for applicants of the European Commission. Here you will have the link to the 2022 one, but the new one will be available once the call is open. Then you have another very important document. This is the PF handbook that is written by the network of Marie Skłodowska-Curie National Contact Points. This is really a guide for writing. For each section, they provide you with suggestion on the content. And there is also the link to their website, because sometimes they also organize webinars on the call. If you have if you want to apply but you don't have any supervisor in mind yet, there is a networking platform where you can post your CV or your expertise, or you can read the institution proposition or supervisor proposition and contact them if you are interested. Then there is I put you the list of the national contact points, because probably you are not applying in France. You want to have, I don't know, the Norwegian contact point. And I also put the link of the French National Contact Point website. They have a lot of useful resources in French. For the main part, but they also organize a webinar for English speaker researchers that want to apply in France. Sometimes I think they also offer advice for French people applying abroad, but it depends. And in the end, the last one is the list of the Europe associated countries, because this is evolving with time. So it could be interesting to take a look if you are doing, if you plan to do, for example, a secondment or a part of your fellowship in an associated country.
Okay.
So just to the final remark, I put here our shared address, mail address, but it should be used only for project with UGA as host institution. We do not provide support for other projects, because as I told you, it's very important to have to contact as soon as possible your host institution. So this is just if you want to do, for example, a global fellowship and for the 2023 call, then you can use it. And then it was everything that I know about the topic.
Thank you very much, Federica. It was very, very interesting and very clear. And I would like to reassure all the people that asked me about this slide. They will receive it at the end. If they are registered, we will send the slides to the presentation to the people who was registered to this webinar. And now, Jordan, I'll give you the floor. So I let you introduce yourself and tell us everything about your experience as Marie Curie Fellowship in Grenoble.
Yep. No problem. Okay, so my name is Jordan Loader. I began my Marie Curie Fellowship the September 2021. So I'm actually having to remember quite a long time ago. I wrote my proposal back in 2019, and then when the pandemic, I got awarded just prior to the pandemic, and I delayed my start of my fellowship as long as I could. So basically, I'll share my slides here. I'm just going to really focus on, here we go.
You would like to share? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah. Let's go move that away. Is that it? Is it working?
That's it.
Yep. Cool. So I'm really going to just focus on part B1. So what my experience was putting that together, as we know that's the main show of when you're getting evaluated. So there's a lot of things to think of. So the handbook that was spoken about there, which we've got the link set there again, that was my Bible. Basically, this handbook provides the information about the content that should be included in your 10-page proposal, and you want to hit every point that they give you, because whoever's going to be evaluating your proposal will be basically probably have a checklist quite similar to make sure that you're ticking every one of those boxes.
Yes.
I have got it open on another screen, so I will show it to you in a second, but they give you subheadings, and I'd say use those subheadings to structure your proposal. But you can use variations, because sometimes the subheadings are quite long, and it's a very, very long title, and you do have a limited amount of space, so you can use shorter subheadings, but indicating that you are addressing that section. And then I'll show you also what I've done in mine, where you would use additional subheadings thereafter. The handbook doesn't actually indicate that, but I strongly recommend it to. I'll show you what they're saying in it, but you get these blocks of information, and you want to really break it up to make it as easy for the reader as possible. Before I get to there, there is one last point, is that you want to use exactly 10 pages. So it is maximum 10 pages, but I wouldn't be using 9.5 pages or 8.5 pages. You want to structure your content that you finish on that last line of page 10. It looks good, of course, but of course you will have the content to use all of that space. Now, there's something that the handbook doesn't tell you. So there is a section for talking about yourself, why you are a candidate, suitable for a Marie Curie Fellowship. and that's down further in the proposal, okay? But from my experience when applying for funding, it's really good to have a paragraph that starts with to introduce who you are and what your achievements are in your research career so far, what sets you apart basically from the rest. So the person that's reading, I mean, if you've got 10,000 applications coming in 1 year and they're all starting off with, you know, saying why their project's important, well, everyone can sort of give reasons why their project is important. But you really then, it's better if you can set yourself apart to start off with. So I've got my paragraph here that I have for my proposal, actually. So I gave a summary of when I got my PhD. I had a dual PhD in biomedicine, and I was productive in my PhD. So I can show that I'm productive already. So I've got 8 journal publications and 2 book chapters from my 3-year PhD. I show also in the second sentence there that different fundings I've got, and I've also got the international experience that I have there. And then I also list in that first paragraph awards that I've received. So already this person who's evaluating my fellowship application has a snapshot of who I am, and that, okay, this person's a serious researcher. They're already leading, I guess, in their field, and they've already got international experience, and they've been successful at it. And that means maybe that will translate to a successful international experience in a Marie Curie fellowship. So I think that's a really, really important one that you just want to nail. Some other quick tips on the proposal. But there's not much to it apart from that I have to say. But other quick tips, use figures where possible to break up the text. So again, you've got to remember that the people who are evaluating your proposal, they are human. If you get given this black and white piece of paper to start off with a whole bunch of words on it, and they're tired at the end of the day, and it's really, really tough to read and really tough to get engaged. So these tips, so using these figures, to showing that you're a serious candidate, it's all about engaging the reader to start off with, so they're not bored the moment that they start reading the first sentence. I know Federica said start in June, but I say, like, if you want, start now. For me, I looked at the guidebook for this year, or for last year's guidebook, and that hadn't varied not very much from 2018. So you could probably start using what they've given you from last year, and then, of course, cross-check it with what they provide you for this year. This last bit, just a stupid joke, really, but basically go to a country with a straightforward administrative process. So I've come to France, of course, and with a family and that sort of thing. It's been a lot of administration, so that's occupied lots of my time. So go to a country where you can do that. So I'll just quickly show you my proposal. I can't really send it to you, but showing you what it could look like. Okay, so you've got your 3 main sections there. So excellence, so blocking it off like this, and then this is the subheading in the grey here.
Jordan, we don't see it. Sorry.
Oh, you can't see it? Okay.
No, you have to stop this. You have to stop the sharing of your previous document. Start a new one.
Yes, got you. Hang on.
So
yeah, there we go.
And you are very lucky to see this, because it's not easy to find a funded proposal.
No, I can't share it out, of course, because it's a current project, but I'll let you see it.
yeah, guys, thank you very much for these tips.
That's all right.
Very useful.
So can you see it now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so
sugar sweetened beverage.
Yeah. So this is my project, Swedenheart's project that I'm currently working on. So here, section 1, we have excellence. Yep. So one of the main, one of three of the main sections or the main categories that you'll be marked on. And then this is in the light grey here, this is a subheading from the guidebook that's been given. And so this is where they want you to hit these points. So I've got my introduction here about me, then here, research that I've done, and then the transition from my previous research to what my current research is. And of course, you can see a figure there to break up the text, and then into the aims. And then, so you'll see also in this, under this section in the guidebook, they'll say, okay, talk about introducing, of course, your topic. And this is just an example. They also want you to touch on the state of the art. And so not only do I have these subheadings here, but I also have subheading state of the art subheading here, yes, also, and further subheading. So really breaking it up and making it very clear to the evaluator that I've hit those points. And you'll go down further. You can add in also, this is, I guess, results from the lab that I was joining. So we were able to show that the lab and the network that I was joining already was at the state of the art. And that's really important to demonstrate as well, that they're already in that area, leading the way. And then, of course, your specific objectives. And you'll learn about this, of every objective has a work package. So you'll get this through your reading of that guidebook. And again, more figures just to help out, break it up. The picture tells 1,000 words, of course. And get down. My section 1 maybe was too long, but it worked in the end. Who knows? And then you have
section 2,
impact. And that was for me starting on page 7. So that could have maybe started a page earlier or 2 pages earlier. But it just depends. You'll be given advice.
Sorry, yep. Jordan. In a nutshell, what is the meaning of impact for a Marie Curie project?
There are 3 subsections now. The first one is the impact on the career of the fellow.
Okay.
The second is the impact, the dissemination and communication measure that activities that you are going to organize during the fellowship. And the third one now is the impact on scientific, economical, and societal impacts. That is different from your proposal, because I think it was not there in 2019. Okay, so it's really what the project
brings to...
Yes, what changes the project bring in your career, but also in the society.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Jordan.
No, that's okay. Pretty much, yes, that's it's quite similar to previous ones, but it has changed slightly through that. And then you get to section 3, of course, which is showing a lot of the feasibility of your project. So you have then your work package tables, when you're saying really when you are going to achieve things as you go. And if they'll expect I don't know if I haven't checked, but they may expect a chart here to really be scheduling when you're going to be hitting certain milestones. And of course, the appropriateness of of your host institution. And a little thing here, I don't know if it's still allowed, but I had lots of references here, but if I was to have this at the same text size as the rest of it, it would have taken up 2 pages. So of course you can shrink your references to whatever size that makes it fit exactly on 10 pages. Okay. So I can stop sharing that. But yeah, so there is other things that you can start now as well, like part B2, because your CV isn't going to change so much in the next 6 months. So that's another document, and I won't say little because it takes a little bit of time to make it look nice. And, making sure, again, you've got 5 pages, or at least I did have CV that you can use. So you want to be filling it out as much as possible. And the other thing you can do now, of course, is if you've got publications that are right on the edge there, that you just need to do that little bit more just to get them over the line, get them in and get them published ASAP for the deadline. Because in the end, if it's not published, it really probably doesn't matter. You can't really reference or refer to it whatsoever. So, a little extra motivation to get those last little bits accomplished now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you finished?
Yep, that's it for me. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Jordan, for sharing with us your experience and for your tips. That was, I think, very useful. And so give the floor to the participants. I can see we are 28% connected. So please raise your hand if you want to ask a question to Federica or to Jordan, or write a questions as you like, and start with the questions. We have until 18:30 so I can see Pauline. Yes, please, Pauline.
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation and sharing your project. I was wondering, is it realistic to apply for a fellowship while still being in your PhD? So I'm in the last year of my PhD, but my final oral will be after the deadline of the fellowship. So first, is it, I'll say, legally acceptable, and is it practically doable to submit? And maybe second question, you said that you postponed your actual postdoc, and I was wondering what you've been able to do because you were done with your PhD and still not in a postdoc. So what are the options? What is it, what you can do while waiting for starting the postdoc?
So, Federica, would you like to answer to these questions?
I think I would like to answer the first part, and I will let Jordan answer the
second. Yes.
You will not be eligible for the postdoctoral if you haven't defended your thesis before the deadline. So it's important that the discussion, the final discussion of the thesis, is held before. If not, you need to wait for next year. I have not said that, but this call is open regularly every year.
Every year, yes, quite at the same time of the year.
Yes, it's almost the same calendar.
The same calendar every year.
On the contrary, it is possible to prepare the fellowship application during your last year of PhD, because we had a candidate in 2022 call that had the final discussion, I think, in August, and the deadline was in September, and is funded. But of course, it takes a lot of work.
Okay, and for the second questions, Jordan?
Yeah, the second part. So basically, you can find another postdoc, really, maybe more locally. So for me, I was in my first postdoc when I did my first, attempted my first application. So I did my first one in 2018, and that was during my first postdoc. And I was unsuccessful on my first attempt for a Marie Curie. I got 84% or something as my result, but that was actually a good learning curve because I had no idea what to expect or was expected of the process for me. So within that year, I found another postdoc, and again, I was actually moving from Australia to Europe, so there was a bit of limbo there. But when I got to Europe, I was awarded the fellowship. I just moved to Sweden, actually, and then I postponed it. And in that time, I found another fellowship, and it actually strengthened probably my cause to get another postdoc or a postdoc before starting the fellowship, because you're a future Marie Curie fellow. So you've got this really nice thing on your resume that you're leading up to. So that's all you can really do is find another postdoc to fill the time.
Okay, thank you, Federica and Jordan. Do you have other questions? Don't be shy.
There are no stupid questions.
Yeah, no stupid questions or questions allowed. Okay. May I ask you, Jordan, in your opinion, which is the added value for your career of this experience, Marie Curie postdoctoral fellow?
It's a very good. I mean, the weight of the fellowship alone on your resume is huge, of course. I was already quite active internationally. I had lots of international experience and international collaboration. So for me, it was just an extension of that experience. I guess it also depends on the host institution. So of course you have this prestigious title attached to your position, but a lot will come down to where you actually go in the end as well. What the lab is like, but of course you'll know this and what they can provide, and if you feel like that opportunity can really they are good with their mentoring opportunities, and if they can extend your career professionally. So the fellowship only supports that opportunity, but it's down to the host institution to really execute it in the end. Of course, there's lots of networking opportunities and lots of other additional activities that you can take on within your fellowship. So there's always emails coming through about things that you can apply for. You can go, Brussels or different locations where there's going to be some really cool meetings. I haven't been able to participate in that myself. We had our third child just months ago, so my life has been focused on family. But there is a lot of that sort of thing that a normal postdoc or a normal funding wouldn't be able to provide. And there is the amount of funding resources that you have to support these networking opportunities and research opportunities. They're quite large. It's a considerable amount of money to allow you to do these things. So that is quite unique, actually.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordan. Is there questions? You can read it, Federica, in the discussion section. Are there partner institutions, or can you apply by any institution? And do you address your application to a university or to a lab?
So you can apply with any institution that is located in a member state or in an associated country. I don't know what you mean with the partner institution.
Now there is.
Yes, so the
Maria Curie. You can see it.
Yes, I'm seeing it.
Okay.
You can consider. Yes.
Hello, it's me. I asked the question. Well, yes. Is it a network of universities or who host the Marie Curie fellowships?
No.
Or
sorry.
It's open to all institutions in European member states or in the associated country. So now we have Norway, Israel, and a couple of others. And we were discussing New Zealand also is an associated country, or will be probably, but I don't think they will be funded for this action. I think they will be treated differently. But for the other countries, you just reach out to the institution. They need to register on the participant portal of the European Commission, and then it's you yourself that you start the application with their agreement, of course.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And the first step, in my opinion, would be to find a supervisor or someone who can really a little bit also sponsor your application internally in the organization. Mm-hmm. It's not so hard in the academic sector, but for example, if you want to do it in a company, I think it's important that you get one person that is really going to be involved in the process, that really wants to do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Federica. There is another question from Pauline. Can you read it?
Yep.
Can you read it? So did you
I think it's for Jordan.
Yeah.
Did you choose the topic of your postdoc, or had it also been chosen by the lab you had contacted prior to submit? Jordan.
Yep. So in my situation, I had already worked with the lab that I was going to join through my network, and when I was in Avignon for a year, so they were tightly integrated. So we'd looked at sugar sweetened beverages previously, and now we're looking at non-nutrient sweeteners. So they had already moved on to that area, and because I have this expertise in a related area, I basically joined onto the project that they had already, I guess, designed, and which was also another good thing, because they had already, by the time I was applying for my funding, they had already gotten a large sum of money, like over €500,000, to actually conduct the project. So that was a positive. But of course, you would also be able to, if you're in contact, of course, you're in contact with the potential supervisors of this. And if you have ideas that you want to explore, then by all means, that could be an idea for a project. But of course, you'd want to ensure that the lab that you're joining, that they are at the state of the art of what you're proposing. So yeah, you can go either way there.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. I don't know. There is another questions. Okay, thank you. Pauline is happy with the answer. Federica, do you want to read the questions from Alexis de Monte?
To what extent does the topic of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action need to be new with what you did during postdoc? Can you apply to other fellowship with kind of the same proposal? It should be new enough to justify the fact that you are doing in another host institution with another supervisor. I would say if you are thinking about an European fellowship, at least. For the global fellowship, it could be the same thing, but you need to find a good reason to go in a third country to learn something new. And it should be something that is not really common knowledge in Europe. But if it's for the European, I would say that it should be something new, because you need to prove that you are going to increase your skill and gain some new skills. So if you already know how to do all the research part of your project, doesn't really make sense for the European Commission to fund you, because you are not learning something new. This is very important in their point of view. You can apply to other fellowship with the same proposal of the PF fellowship. Why not? Yes, this is up to you. It's not a problem. Nevertheless, the template that you're going to follow is very strict. So you may be able to recycle the scientific idea and some parts of the written proposal, but not everything, because there are parts that are really scream postdoctoral fellowship and are not asked by any other funder that I know. But of course, the idea could be used, and it's not a problem. Because when you will have the results, you may decide which project you want to continue. So if you have already started another fellowship, it will be up to you to say if you want to continue with the one that you already got, or if you want to start the Marie Skłodowska-Curie. And it's really not a problem. They are quite flexible on some things, and they also really the European Commission really understands the fact that between the deadline where you submit your proposal and the actual time where you get the results and the agreement is signed, something happens. You can find a new job, you can find a different postdoctoral position that you want to finish, you can start working on your PF project and have already done some part of the work. This is okay. They really understand this.
Thank you, Federica. That was very clear. If you want to ask your question in French, please do it. We can translate it. There's no problem, Federica. No problem.
Yeah, yes.
Or a
No
question in French, we can translate to Jordan. There's no problem. Okay, we have another half an hour for your questions. Federica, is there any scientific field specificity for the MSCI process?
I don't know what you mean with the specificity.
I don't know.
I think you're asking if it's open or
Ilias
not.
Baruva, can you specify, please?
No, in terms of scientific topics, you can choose everything you want, really. Just keep in mind that there are some teams that are some topics that are more liked by the Commission. For example, everything that is related to the Green Deal, what they call the Green Deal, so the sustainable development and the green transition. These are very popular topics, and the Commission also has an engagement to spend a certain amount of funding in these topics. There is this, there are gender studies that are really important, well received by the Commission. And the other thing is everything that is related to democracy, the study of the resilience of the democracy in these current times. This is more like human sciences projects, but they really receive very well a project on this field. For example, comparative studies on the impact of COVID in the societies, or something about the use of social network to influence people for political results. All these teams are really hot teams for the Commission, but it doesn't change the fact that we also have some very different projects that are funded. We had two postdoctoral fellowship funded in philosophy, the philosophy of memory, really linked to a little bit of neuroscience, but still mainly a philosophy project that has been funded. We had two of them, and I'm thinking about recent years what we had. So it's also very open for social science and humanities project. You should not be scared to apply if you have a PhD in the topic, because they really want to see. There is a panel that is dedicated to that, and they really like also how to say that, not applied science, basic research. They also like to fund this kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So it's very open.
It's very open.
And I think it's important to say that it's a flagship program for the European Commission. It's a flagship program. It's an excellence program.
Yes, it's the reference program for postdoc and doctoral training, basically, for the European Commission.
Okay. There are more questions.
I don't know, Jordan, if you want to
you want to add something.
Yes, I would like to know if you have any suggestion on searching for a supervisor. I think in your case you already know him.
Yeah, so I was in the US for 12 months, and my now supervisor, who I knew of because I knew of his work, ended up being there at the exact same time on a sabbatical. And then, of course, I was going to France after that, to Avignon, and the small network of microvascular researchers and French microvascular researchers, so they knew of each other. So that's how we came out. So we were actually friends. I'd stayed at Matthew's place and stayed with his family in Grenoble several times while I was living in Avignon. So that's how I came about finding my supervisor. So it's a bit of a different experience, I guess, than what most people would encounter. So I just use my if you've got prior international connections, it's always a good one to do, because you can show that you've worked with them before and you've worked successfully with these people before. And so you want to strengthen those working relationships with your fellowship, whilst also creating new networks.
I would say that also international conferences could be a place where to meet people. It could be the supervisor that gives an interesting presentation. Then you reach out to him afterward to talk about research, and maybe you say to him that you're interested in a postdoctoral fellowship. Or it could be someone that during poster session comes asking a question about your poster, and then you can see if they are interested to host a PF.
For sure, and you'll also know of who are leading researchers in your field already, and simply send an email and ask. Worst is someone could say no, but no one's probably going to really say no to having an extra set of hands coming into work for them, getting funded, external funding. So they're always going to support that. So if there is someone who's a big name, reach out. And that's how I've had some of my experiences, by just saying, this is what I do. I know what you do. I would love to come and spend 12 months in your lab. And if they don't need to worry about the funding, of course, then it's all good. And they'll usually do that. So it can be quite easy.
Okay. Federica,
we have another question.
This is for you. Do you have to teach during your postdoc? And is a teaching experience an asset or criterion?
You don't have to teach. It's not mandatory. It's up to you if you want to do it. I would say that it depends on your career goal. If you want to become a university professor where teaching experience is required for the job, it could be interesting to add this to your project and say that during the fellowship you have the occasion to do some teaching, and this could help you get a permanent position as a university professor afterwards. But you're not judged any differently if you have already done some teaching before, because it's not mandatory done in the evaluation to have teaching experience.
Okay, thank you. Another question, what is the weight of journal publications in number of other criteria? I suppose it is quite, I don't see the rest. It's
fundamental.
Fundamental. I don't know.
On my side,
What do you think?
important, but it's not the most important thing. Depends on your
it shows track
scientific
record.
age.
It shows track record. So of course, if you want to show a good number, but you also want good quality publications. So not just little things always, but so when they're looking at track record, I think, you do want to have those on your resume.
Keep in mind that the European Commission is shifting towards evaluation of research career. It is not done on the basis of number of publication, but more on the quality of the publication, and also your what you done in the publication, with the meaning the part of the work that you have done for each one of them. So it's really depends on all of this, and also if you have 7 years of postdoc experience, they are going to expect a number of publication. If it's your first postdoc, it's going to be treated differently. So it really depends on your level of career or your research experience, I would say.
Thank you.
There was also another question from...
can you read it, Federica?
Is there an average salary from the postdoc? Is there particular yearly that to present proposal? I don't understand the second part.
In terms of funding, you can ask for things that cannot be funded, field work, for how long, lab equipment.
There is another one before that.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry. The average salary is the one that I show in the slide. It's not an average salary. The commission gives a unit cost, and then the host institution must give it all to the fellow. The only part that could be left out is the taxation. So for every country, all the postdoctoral fellows in France, for example, they have the same salary because the French unit cost is the same, and the French taxation, it doesn't change a lot between among the different organizations. So it's an obligation of the host institution to provide you with this amount. And I'm sorry, I don't understand the second part of the question.
What is the weight of journal publications? This?
No, is there a particular
yearly date to present?
Yes, this is the deadline.
There is a calendar.
Yes, there is a deadline. Normally, is in September.
Okay, and the call will open next June.
Next April.
Next April. No, the call will be open until from April to September. That's correct. Okay. And the questions was from Alexis Lamotte. In terms of funding, you can ask for things that cannot be funded: field work, for how long, lab equipment, or should the latter already be part of the hosting lab? Federica, I think you can answer this question.
You don't have any limitation on what you can buy with a research and training unit cost. It's up to you and the rules of your host institution, because sometimes there are national rules that apply. But you can do field work. You can buy a machine. Just keep in mind that you have 1,000 euro per month. So if you have a 2-year project, it's 24,000 euros, and you have to use it for a lot of things. So you are not going to buy a big equipment, of course. But I would say that the main equipment should already be present at the host institution. But if you need a small thing, you can buy it.
Yes, if it's related to your research for your projects. if you ask for, I don't know, something not related, that will be hard to justify to European Commission in case of audit. Okay. There is another questions I can see. No. Federica, do you have other tips, advices to our students?
I forgot to mention that for all of you that want to apply with a Grenoble host institution, so we are talking about UGA, but also CNRS, INRIA, yes, Grenoble IMP. There is also someone else that I'm...
Political science.
Yes, all Grenoble institution, there is a program that is called Fostering Science, that organizes webinar for with writing tips, and also can help you in the submission. This is just for host institution in Grenoble. And then more general level, I'm sure that the National Contact Point organize almost something in almost every country.
Especially at the beginning, when the call is open. So
Yeah.
this is why we do this webinar now in March, because to prepare the call.
I would say normally the events start to start in May, June.
Mm-hmm.
You have the majority of them, because then there is July that is left for writing the proposal. August, unfortunately, is it's very difficult month to work in Europe in general. So it's not an ideal calendar for.
So it's better to start now, as Jordan say. Okay. Do you have other questions?
There is a last one.
There is a last one. I can see it. Federica?
Federica or Jordan is the same. It is solely up to the fellow to decide how the funding is spent, or is this decision taken in consultation with other project members?
I think it's better to Jordan. Both.
He has direct experience.
Yeah. I mean, well, you know just as well as me, of course, it has to be related to your project. So, I mean, I think it's mainly been my decision so far. If I've needed this, well, from the start, I needed computer equipment, for example, and I just made that decision. It's justified, it's ordered, and that helps me complete my project. After that, when you can talk to your team members. So if there's consumables for the experiment you're going to conduct that maybe the lab doesn't have already, then of course you can use it with that. So it goes both ways. I think it's good to maybe have an open conversation with your supervisor about those things for what the lab might need also. But of course, that money's there to support your conference travel as well. So they're things that you can make decisions by yourself as well. So you are part of a lab, but you are on your way to becoming an independent researcher. So you can practice some of the things that an independent researcher would do, like deciding which conferences you want to go to, or what training you want to undertake. And you can do that on your own accord. And of course, those costs will be calculated by whoever's handling your administration.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know if there are other questions. I have a question to you, Jordan. What happened next?
What's next?
What's next?
Yeah, so because I'm in the final 6 months now of my my project, so I don't have an ambition anymore, I guess, to stay in academia. I'm definitely moving towards the private sector. I don't like having to apply for funding every 2 to 5 years, and I don't like that idea. it's a tough one. It's because if you've got family and that sort of thing, it's not a secure position, is it? Of course, when you do start to get these fundings, the next funding does become easier to get, especially when you start building a track record. But to sing for your supper every 2 to 5 years is not what I envision, and I like the safety net of the private industry. And for me, I'm in biomedical research, so there's some nice pharmaceutical companies that I can go work for and continue my research. So I've sort of transitioned from where I've been doing more clinical studies, now going to more epidemiological studies. So, and that's come through some of my postdoc experiences before and during my fellowship. So, yeah, it is interesting to see how you transition. And like when I applied for this funding, it was just me. And now I've got 3 children and my partner to worry about. So my life aspects have changed a lot in the past 4 years.
Okay. But this is totally okay. If the commission, they really like to see people that moves from academia to non-academia. It's one of the purposes of the whole scheme. So
exactly.
Just they are aware. There are not enough permanent job position in academia, so they really try to help people make the transition during the fellowship if possible. Mm-hmm. So you should not be scared, even if you're applying in the academic sector, to write that your dream job is in the non-academic sector and you want to pursue this, and you will probably adapt the training activities that you choose to do in order to make the transition smoother, or participate in industry conferences. This is...
I think either way, it's a good idea. For me, I had no ambition before this to go into the private sector. I hadn't really even considered it, but it's something that evolved during the time. But yeah, so if you could design your project that way to have one foot in sort of each zone, it's ideal. And then you're just opening up more opportunities for afterwards.
Thank you, Jordan, and
good
luck.
Thank you.
So, do you have somebody have other questions? So we can end here, I think. I don't know, Federica or Jordan, do you want to add some things, last things?
All good on
it's
mine.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's okay for you, Federica?
Yes, it's okay. No, I don't have any other...
Okay. In any case, I will, my colleague Marie Boone, who is in charge of this webinar, and there is another questions,
Very last one.
The last one. Okay. I will read.
Is there some minimum of trainings required to do during the fellowship? It isn't. But keep in mind that is
1/3 maximum of your fellowship.
No, that's the secondment. But for the training, it's not required. But you have to demonstrate in your proposal that you are going to reach to have more skills. So you need to have training.
Please cut the phone. Okay. Sorry, everybody.
So it's very important that you have some kind of training.
Okay. So it's 5 minutes to 18:30. So I would like to thank you very much, Jordan and Federica, for this presentation. Very interesting, very clear. And thank you, Jordan, to share with us your experience as a fellowship. Good luck for next steps.
Thank you very much.
And to the participants, thank you very much for attending this webinar. Marie Boone my colleague, will send you the presentation. And I don't know if Jordan will share. You will share your proposal or not?
I can send the slides on. I can't send the whole
proposal. Okay, thank you. I understand.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much, and see you soon, Federica and Jordan. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Goodbye.
Bye.